right, so I'll tell you guys a story about my mother, because she's my favorite subject for storytelling, because she's really dramatic. Everything's like a hella big deal with my mother. Like, for example, I remember when I was 13, and the very first CD that I purchased for myself was Green Day, Dookie. Do you guys remember this CD? Okay, so it had this like cartoon, had this cartoon front on it, or what are those things called? The like CD liner or whatever, the like sheet that tells you who it is. So it had this cartoon thing, and in the middle of it was like a giant bomb dropping and the word Dookie across it, which I guess just like set her off. So I took this home, and I was really proud that I had purchased a CD of my own music, and I, was like such a nerdy kid that I wanted to show my mom. So I went up to her and I was like, "Mom, look, I bought a CD." And she took one look at it and she was like, "No, this is going back. Absolutely not. We are taking this back to Target." I was like, "Mom, you can't take music back to Target." She was like, "Oh, I can. The customer is always right. Yes, I can." So she like marched into Target, she like took me by the elbow. I'm 13. God, that is like prime embarrassment time. And so we marched up to the counter, and she did in fact show me that the customer is always right if they're screaming, because just like Target employees don't get paid enough to deal with that. So they took the CD back, and I took the lesson from that, Jesus, Mom, you're so dramatic. Like, that was the thought in my head. So oftentimes when she would have feelings, I would not believe her. I would think that she was just like being ridiculous and overreacting. And there was one particular feeling that I remember that she had often that I just thought she was just being a complete drama queen about. And I can remember exactly where I was the first time I experienced it. Before I get into this, let me just ask, a quick poll. Show of hands, who knows who Lionel Richie is? Okay, great, you guys are awesome. Dancing on the Ceiling, yes, you know this song? All right. Was the shit, maybe not so much anymore. But in like 1989, yes. So here's where I was. I was 9 years old, and I was sitting in the front seat of my mom's Dodge Plymouth something Voyager minivan, and we were getting ready to like back out of the driveway. I'm pretty sure to go to Target. So we start to back out, and I'm rocking out to Lionel Richie. I have this like memory seared into my mind because of this music. I have, "Oh, what a feeling when you're dancing on the ceiling." I had it like turned up, rocking out, and Mom all of a sudden like slammed on the brakes, rolled down all the windows in the car and turned off the radio. She turned off Lionel Richie, and I could not figure out what she was doing. But then, right there in my driveway, in broad daylight, my mother proceeded to rip off every stitch of clothing that she was wearing. She ripped off her jacket, she ripped off her shirt, she left her bra on. Thank God. Prime embarrassment time right there. So she left this off, and I didn't understand what she was doing. I did not understand she was having a hot flash. So, and she told me this, and I was like, "Mom, God, you're being so dramatic. You're making this up. This is ridiculous." I thought she was just like out of her mind, bonkers, because that's what 9, 10, 11, 12, 13-year-olds think of their mothers. So, and over the next couple of years, my mother reenacted this scene many times. She would shove her head in the freezer, or go outside on a snowy day half naked, or like whatever it took when the urge struck. She would turn on the air conditioner on full blast in February, and I get very cold. This was upsetting to me. So I did not believe her at all that she was having this hot flash. Let's go ahead and fast forward a number of years later, and I started having severe abdominal pains one day. Actually, it had been going on for a while, but I'm the kind of person who like doesn't do anything about it until it's like, oh my God, I can't take a step. So I thought my appendix had burst, so I was rushed to the emergency room, and my appendix had not burst. I had grown a cyst the size of a giant grapefruit, and it was growing. I called it the citrus cyst. And I had to have that removed. Like, I had surgery on it to remove it immediately. And after the surgery, they put me on about 5 different medications whose powers combined to induce chemical menopause. You can see what's gonna happen. So I can remember where I was the first time I had this feeling. I was sitting on the couch watching old reruns of Sex and the City, recovering from surgery, and all of a sudden, I felt like my brain was on fire. I felt this like fire begin in my belly, and it like raged all the way up into my esophagus, into my throat, into my brain, and if I did not rip off every single stitch of clothing, I was sure it was gonna like explode into flames right there on the couch. And the worst thing was Sarah Jessica Parker on the television just yammering on. I couldn't handle her talking about Burger and Mr. Big and bullshit, blah, 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 so I turned it off. And then I understood why my mother could not handle Lionel Richie. Oh, what a feeling when you're dancing on the ceiling. There's my feeling story. There you go.